So it's great to be here today with Janette Quinn from COBIS, the Council of British International Schools. So Janette, I know you've got quite a background in education, but tell us, first of all, what it is you do with COBIS and actually how you got to do that with COBIS. Yeah, how's that worked out?
Okay, well, good afternoon. A great pleasure to be here. My official title is Assistant Director for Accreditation and Professional Learning, which in real terms means I have the great pleasure of visiting many schools. We do the COBIS accreditation, which is a scheme for with great rigour and support.
And it's all,
we don't use the word inspection because at the heart of it is ongoing school development. Right. So it really is about school improvement, about schools meeting targets, but with a critical friend. So it's an ongoing, the difference between accreditation and inspection is it's an ongoing process. It's not a full stop, and it's continually reflecting on what you're doing and what you can do better. And the second part of my role is developing leaders, working with heads and working with middle leaders.
So what does that involve, that bit? And then we'll come back to why, because I'm just interested in what that bit involves.
I've trained facilitators for middle leaders as part of the continuing professional development for middle leaders. And it's basically giving middle leaders a toolbox in which to fulfill their role. And so that's incredibly exciting. And also I work with aspiring head teachers and new head teachers to help them on their journey.
So is that passion for leadership? Why is it you've come to do what you're doing then? And what part has that played in it?
I suppose first of all I'll answer why COBIS. And I think I really believe in the importance of strong values, and I believe if you have strong values the rest follows, and COBIS absolutely has strong values. And I think my journey first started with a whiteboard in a staff room, and I was a teacher and I walked in and it said on the whiteboard, it was intriguing, it said, is anyone available at short notice to visit an unspecified country to look at schools?
This was in your school when you were?
This was in my school. It was over 20 years ago. Right. And I went home and said to my husband, can you look after the children, please? And went back and said, yes, that will be me. Ended up going to South Africa.
Right.
And you know when you have a moment in your life that has everlasting impact on you?
Yes, yeah.
It was incredible. And sometimes you have to go away to see things clearly.
And to see where you are clearly as well.
Absolutely. It made me realise the importance of appreciating what you have.
Yes.
About being innovative and using things that you do have to the full. About the importance of having a strong vision. And about the importance of investing in people and the power that has. As a result of that golden opportunity, for example, I went into one school and I walked in and I thought, wow, this is incredible. And there were beautiful beds. And the head teacher said to us, the beds are shapes, that's the maths. The science is the growing. The reality is we feed our children a meal a day so that they can learn and have high expectations. And looking forwards from then onwards, internationalism was in my heart and in my soul. I went on to become a head teacher in 3 different schools, 2 in the UK, 1 in Mexico. I supported head teachers. I was a local leader of education. I took my school through the International Schools Award, made links leading educators across the planet so that head teachers from Australia and the UK could exchange all sorts of things, and it was just like a candle had been lit, and I just didn't look back. In Mexico, I was trained as a facilitator for the CPML, the role I do now.
That's the middle leaders.
For the middle leaders.
Yeah.
And when I was validated, I was asked to become one of the first lead improvement partners for COBIS. Several years on now, you know, I'm taking a strategic leadership role in that area. So that's why I'm sitting here today having this conversation with you.
Yeah. So you talked about middle leaders there, and I mean, you and I know as former head teachers how important middle leaders are, and it's like that engine of the school that in many ways, isn't it, that they're making things happen. I mean, how are you able to help them?
Oh, absolutely. They're so important. And the odd thing is, you get all excited, you go to your interview, you get your job as a middle leader, and you wake up the next morning with this new title, and you're meant to understand and know everything about middle leadership. And so it's so important that we set our middle leaders up for success, that we let them take the journey for themselves, and we believe in them, but at the same time we need to support them. And this is why CPML is so continuing professional development for middle leaders is such a passion for me. It's about giving our middle leaders a toolbox, and we're never going to know what the future is going to bring. The last 2 years, well, it's been, you could never have predicted it, but we can invest in our leaders and equip them with necessary skills to help them in stormy times, as well as when things are calm and straightforward. And actually, we've got some amazing facilitators who have just invested in our middle leaders, and our head teachers are coming back and saying, actually, this has given us a sense of normality. Actually, when you're busy, you can't not stop and invest in people. You can't do things by yourself.
It's like you can't, I mean, I know we shouldn't be talking about cars and petrol and things like that anyway in this world, but you can't run a car without petrol, can you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So what about the progression planning? You know, because that's one of the things that schools, I do wonder whether schools do, whether because they're so busy, they do actually invest enough time thinking about how people are going to move forward, and because sometimes people will move forward and then move on to other places, but there's still progression within that. But how do you deal with that? How do you manage that with schools?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important, and a particular challenge for international schools, because by the nature of an international school, as you're well aware, people will move on,
and you may only have a contract for a couple of years.
Totally.
People often don't realize.
So again, it's important to think about this, and none of us are invincible. And I always think when you're looking at your staff, you need to think, including yourself.
I know it's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
If I'm not there, who's going to be doing my job? If my deputy's not there, there should be not a single member of your staff that someone cannot just step automatically into their places. I think a good example of this was my time in Mexico City, and once a week I would have a meeting with my phase leaders, and this was the most important meeting of the week, and it was really focused. We were only an hour and a half, and it started off with just, when our first meeting, I remember, was all about Wellington boots, and I'm thinking, but by the 3 years on, it was each of the phase meetings feeding back on what they were doing, talking about the impact, and we had such great communication. Everyone was aware of what was happening in all the different parts of the school, and the success was measured when I then moved on, and my deputy, succession planning, became the head teacher. There was the tragedy of that awful earthquake, and which was awful, and my deputy contacted me and he said, Janette, it worked. He said, we are in 3 different parts of the city and the school is operating smoothly because of that strong communication within the phase leaders. So it's, and interestingly, just yesterday I was talking to a head in China and she said to me, my most important meeting is, and I went, yes.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's leadership is an amazing thing to do in school. I mean, it's jolly hard work in lots of ways, but it can have a phenomenal impact. And I think that's why many leaders want to go into leadership, because they want to have that impact. But what advice would you give aspiring leaders about how they can prepare for that?
Well, I think as leaders, as we referred to before, we're so busy rushing around all the time. We're so keen to help everybody else that the thing that we're not good at, and I include myself, is stopping and thinking, I need my time. And actually, when we're at our busiest, that's when we need a trusted friend or colleague to say, hey, stop. And I'd say you need to think who you are, what are your values, what do you believe in, because to be an effective head, you have to be in the right place. Schools are so diverse and so different. So a school that would suit me might not suit you, and another school down the road needs a completely different person.
Or whatever stage we are in our leadership journey as well, because people go through different stages, don't they? And not always the same route.
No. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a great prior CEO said to me, Janette, stop and look at the trees. And he's right. When I'm the busiest, I think, look at the trees.
Yes.
So other top tips would be, so I think I've got 3 top tips if you were to push me.
Yes.
So one, think about, know who you are, be true to yourself and true to your values. Secondly, find a mentor. And even if you've been an experienced head teacher of 20 years, you still need that mentor. You still need that person that you trust, that you can just say, I think I know what I'm going to do about this, but can I just check? Or that mentor that says, stop, take a breath. Because when you're in it, you can't always see those things. And my third one would be the advice passed on to me from my mentor, which is always sleep on a decision. And I've tried to stick from that from day one, especially in today's when everything is in writing, and it's very easy when you're feeling heated to write something down, but sleep on it, come back, and then your brain works where you're asleep, I tend to find, and I wake up and think, that's what I need to do.
And that's actually really good role modeling, that kind of leadership approach. It's really good role modeling for students in schools, isn't it? To think about how they are and how they can be good, decent contributors, impactful leaders in their own right.
I mean, our students, that's why we're all here for the children, aren't they? And
totally right.
And they
and the future of the world. That's it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say they're the leaders of our future. They're innovative. They're inquisitive. It's up to us to let them fulfill all of this, and which makes me mindful of talking to a 5-year-old when our school was making links with China, and the focus was reading, and the 5-year-old said, "Can we make a bookmark to take to China, to our friends in China?" So I ended up going to China with 300 bookmarks. the nursery had done fingerprinting, the older ones had done sewing, 300, and I turned up. But that one suggestion from a 5-year-old made reading come to life. It made the whole thing work. And in my role as a lead improvement partner, when I go into schools and I hear students say to me, "Mrs. Quinn, that we make a difference to our school. There's a bench in the playground because that was my idea." I said, "Can we have a friendship bench?" Students they're the heart of our school, and we need to let them be innovative and let them be the leaders of our future.
Oh, totally, totally. And schools don't have it easy, do they? I mean, generally. So students making a difference to it helps inordinately. But if you think about with your hat on now, with your COBIS hat on now, well, it's not just your COBIS hat, but what are the challenges and the opportunities facing schools in the future?
Well, I mean, I love that quote from Einstein: out of adversity comes opportunity. And I strongly believe that great leaders are really good at spotting opportunities. And I think, again, visiting schools at the moment, which is humbling, schools are in such challenging situations and doing amazing jobs. And going into schools, they're saying to us, they're doing what they always do. They stop, they review, they say, what next? And a big change is, no surprise, is technology. We've all done a vertical learning curve for technology, and schools are using it as a tool for learning, and there's great examples of that. But people have also stopped to reflect on what really matters to them, and people matter, and communities matter. And some of in our schools, there's people who have not seen their families for 2 years. They've been separated from their husband, their wife, their children. And and so there's a real reviewed focus on well-being, staff well-being, student well-being. But out of that, a robustness, going back to our students, they're coming out of this, they're learning that they're resilient, they're learning that they can cope with change. And schools, they're reviewing the curriculum and saying, hey, we're not going to just do what we've always done. We're now going to say, yeah, this was tough, but how's it going to make us better? How's it going to make us stronger?
So this is my final question. So I feel as though I can talk to you for hours and hours. but my final question for you is, if you had a sort of magical crystal ball and you could look just even 5 years into the future, what do you think realistically we will see in schools, international schools across the world? What are we going to see? Will we have learnt the lessons? What will be the challenges? What do you expect to see in the near future?
Interesting question. I think that we're going to see even more of schools supporting each other in groups. We come back to community, we come back to people. And schools have reached out to each other. They've been selfless in helping each other. And I think that's going to continue with people sharing expertise. Those links aren't going to go away. I think we're going to see more local families in international schools, because of the uncertainty.
Travel and yes.
Well, I think as well we're going to see differences with there's a real challenge is going to be recruitment of staff. And I think there's going to be a lot of home growing, developing local staff.
Well, that's exciting as well.
There's, as I said, there's always opportunities out of adversities, and I think COBIS has a strong role in all of this, because I always think of COBIS as a family of schools where we're all different and unique, but we also share similarities, and we never stay the same. We're always reflecting and evolving. And this year, we'd never dreamed that we'd be doing accreditations virtually. We'd never dreamed that there'd be, we've had our COBIS conference virtually.
Well, because I was there.
You were. Yes, you were. And ConnectEd, there's been a real focus on connecting people across the world. And I think that shared passion throughout all of our schools for checking that we're safe and providing the best possible holistic education for our children. I think for all of us, it goes back to our values again and the importance of those shared values.
Janette, thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation, and I look forward to seeing you in person, hopefully in the not too distant future.
Oh, absolutely, fingers crossed, and thank you very much. Thank you.